What's something that you still regret not doing up to this day? Frank married my mom when I was 8. I made it clear from day one he wasn't my father. You're just Frank, I told him. My mom's husband. Nothing more. He said okay and never pushed it. But he showed up to every baseball game, every parent-teacher conference, every school play. My teammates would ask if that was my dad cheering the loudest. That's Frank, I'd say. Just Frank. When I needed help with homework, Frank sat at the kitchen table for hours. When I wanted to learn to fix cars, Frank bought an old junker, and we worked on it together in the garage. When I got into fights at school, Frank was the one who picked me up. Never lectured, just asked if I was okay. Still, I introduced him as my mom's husband. This is Frank, I'd say at college orientation, while he carried boxes up 4 flights of stairs to my dorm. He drove 5 hours each way to bring me home for Thanksgiving, to see my games, to take me to lunch when I was homesick. My roommate said, "Your dad seems cool." He's not my dad. He's Frank. When I graduated, Frank was there with flowers, got time off from his construction job, losing a day's pay he needed. The photo shows him crying. I'm standing stiff beside him. Posted it online with the caption, "Mom and Frank at graduation." My girlfriend asked why I called him Frank, because that's his name. "But he raised you. He's your dad." "No, he's the guy who married my mom." She looked at me strange but dropped it. When I got my first apartment, Frank spent 3 weekends helping me move, painting walls, installing shelves, fixing the toilet that kept running. My neighbor asked if my dad was handy. "That's not my dad," I said loud enough for Frank to hear. He just kept working on the toilet. When I got laid off, Frank called every contractor he knew, got me temporary work with his crew until I found something. The guys all said Frank talked about me constantly. "My boy this, my boy that." He's confused, I told them. I'm not his son. They looked at Frank. He just shrugged and handed me a hard hat. At my wedding, I had my uncle walk me down the aisle with my mom. She begged me to ask Frank. "He deserves it," she said. "He's been your father for 20 years. I told her I didn't have a father. Frank sat in the 3rd row, still took time off work, still cried during the ceremony, still gave a speech about watching me grow up even though I didn't ask him to. When my son was born, we named him after my grandfather, not Frank. Frank was there within minutes, held him so carefully, called him his grandson. I corrected him. "You're not his grandfather. You're Frank." He nodded, kept holding the baby, kept showing up, teaching him to throw, reading him stories, being everything I wouldn't let him be for me. Mom told me last year Frank couldn't have kids, something about a childhood illness. Never told me because he didn't want me to feel obligated, didn't want me to think I had to call him dad out of pity, just wanted to be whatever I'd let him be, even if that was just Frank. 3 months ago, there was an accident at his construction site, equipment malfunction. Frank pushed a younger worker out of the way, took the full impact himself. I got to the hospital as they were rushing him into surgery. He was conscious for a moment, grabbed my hand. "Tell your mom I love her. Tell my grandson I'm sorry I'll miss his games." "What about me?" I wanted to say. What should I tell myself? But I just nodded. He died on the table, never woke up. The funeral was packed. Construction workers, my teachers from high school he'd kept in touch with, coaches, neighbors, all talking about Frank the father, Frank the family man, Frank who never missed anything, Frank who talked about his son constantly. The pastor asked if I wanted to speak. I stood at the podium, looking at the coffin, started to say Frank was my mom's husband. The words wouldn't come, because Frank wasn't just my mom's husband. Frank was the man who taught me to shave, who stayed up all night when I had pneumonia, who worked overtime to pay for my college, who never missed a single moment that mattered, who called me son even when I wouldn't call him dad. I tried to speak, tried to say what I should have said 20 years ago, or 10 years ago, or last week, or that day in the hospital, but all that came out was, Frank was, and I couldn't finish because how do you explain that Frank was everything and you gave him nothing in return? Not even the word he wanted most? I stood there crying while everyone waited. Finally I said Frank was the best father anyone could ask for. I was just the worst son. Then I sat down next to his empty chair and wished to God I'd called him dad just once so he could have heard it, so he could have known. But Frank died being just Frank, and I live being the son who never said dad. My boy calls me daddy every day. Every single time I think about Frank, about how much that word would have meant, about how little it would have cost me, about how it's too late now. It will always be too late.